Hey there, adventurers, and welcome back to another episode of the Awkward Dungeon Master. This week we are going to talk about 3D printing miniatures and set pieces for your games. I don't really know a ton about the actual printing of those things. I use a lot of 3D printed stuff, but it's my husband that prints it for me. So first off, what kind of printer is it that you actually have?
I have the Monoprice Maker Select version 2. It's one of the rebrands of the Wanhao printers. I believe that's how you pronounce it, but I've only ever seen it written down.
And what does the process look like for going to 3D print a miniature?
Mine is what's called an FDM printer. Think of it basically as a plastic extruding hot glue gun. And it just squirts out layer by layer of plastic. Now, I don't make my own models. I don't know how. But there are a lot of resources online. There's Thingiverse that you can search on, or Shapeways. And most of the models that are seen here, I actually got from one maker. It's Miguel Zavala. If you ever search for, it's MZ4250, and put in pretty much any monster in D&D, he is attempting to model all of them, and it's all online for free. So that's where most of these came from. And then you can download that. You will then put it into what's called a slicer program. I use Cura. There's a couple other ones, but that's the one that works for me. And that'll take the model and turn it into a file that basically tells the printer what to print. And it will go in and say each level, like the layout of that level. And that is what you send to your printer, which then will, depending on your printer, like mine, I'm usually printing at 0.2 millimeters per level, and it will squirt out that little bit of plastic, move up, put out more plastic, move up, put out more plastic, and build these models.
Okay. And I know that we've had some issues, not so much with the larger miniatures, but with some of the smaller ones. I'm going to grab a large base just because that's what we have out here, where you've had issues kind of printing vertically,
Yes.
Especially with like hero minis. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, I found, and this is something I've picked up from online, there's some of the different resources online to help you print a little better, that a lot of prints are really better to print either at a 45 or completely on their back. That way you don't have, the more overhang you have, the more supports you have to print, because it'll actually print little pieces of plastic just to hold this up, and then you have to go in there and break off and file and clean. But by putting them, like if I put this guy on his back, it's a lot flatter of a surface to print on.
And I know you found that to be especially helpful with things that have like really minute details and
Yes.
stuff like swords and weapons and things.
Yes, especially on a sword, anytime I can, I try to make the sword point directly vertical, because the more overhang, the more likely it's going to wiggle just a little bit and the sword will end up breaking.
Really? It's no wiggle?
Yeah.
Just like that.
Even the Elder Brain model, again, another one of Miguel Zavala's models.
That's a cool one to talk about.
He has two versions of this, because I have a plastic printer. There's also resin printers. The resin printers, you can get a better detail and you can print more complex designs. So this guy, because of all these arms that would be overhanging, he actually made the model where all of them are vertical. And then you hit it with a hairdryer to warm it up, and you can bend each one after you print it to be able to get the cool designs. And again, if printing vertical, they're a lot less likely to break during the printing. And even this one of them broke, and super glued it back together.
I've had more than one break.
Yeah.
That is something to talk about with 3D printing, especially miniatures. Things that are delicate, like the T-Rex has done this a few times too. The plastic is really rigid whenever it's printed, so anything that's small, like the leg joints on this, can snap really easy if you're not careful with it whenever you're transporting it to places. That one has broken on me 3 times at least, going to and from the burrow.
So always try to keep some super glue on you when you're using 3D prints.
Mm-hmm. Super glue's good.
Again, this is a plastic one, the FDM. Although it does work for these guys, one of the things it's great for are, if you can grab, the dungeon tiles or set pieces.
Oh, tiles.
Yeah.
Not the dungeon tower.
Yeah. So there's a lot of these online where you can print and then build rooms, and this is fantastic for this kind of printing. This and set pieces like the crates and the barrels.
Rocks too. I use those rocks all the
Yeah.
freaking time, and I didn't even have to paint them. I just had him print them for me in gray plastic.
Yep.
So
Yeah, you can get plastic in every color of the rainbow. As you can see, this guy I just printed earlier today in bright blue because that's what I had on the printer. And then afterwards, you can paint them any color you want. That's how all these others are bright and colorful.
And this is an owl bear, right?
Yes.
Miguel Zavala again?
Yes, it is.
Yep.
Like I said, he's the easiest. Anytime I'm looking for something, I just put in Owlbear MZ4250 into Google, and there it was. The other one these are actually models that I made are area of effect templates, so Fireball. And you can just very easily lay it out on your map and be like, yep, those people are in, those people are not. Or 15-foot cones. I also have in my bag just a straight stick of 30, I always call it. And it's really handy because so many spells have a range of 30. You can just be like, yeah, I can get that guy.
And I know we didn't put it out here, but it's been in one of my other videos, the hallway tool that we made.
Oh, yes.
So that is the other nice thing with the 3D printer. If you learn a little bit just about modeling, like these were really simple, right?
Yeah.
Like you had to go through and teach yourself, but they were fairly straightforward.
Yeah.
The hallway tool was kind of like that too.
Yeah,
Easier.
This kind of modeling, I basically just had a flat grid that I drew the outline of it and then just told it to make it that tall. I wasn't sculpting like these guys, which boggles my mind watching people 3D sculpt. So
MC does do live.
Yes, he has
modeling, right?
Twitch that he sometimes streams live on.
Cool. We'll link down to that in the description if you guys want to check out his stuff. Most of the monsters that I have are from MZ's modeling, so definitely want to give him a shout out on this one.
Yes. I'll throw the plug. He also has a Patreon that I'm a supporter of, and I highly recommend anyone who does this to send him a little bit every month because it's amazing what he's done. He has I know it's well over 300, it's probably closer to 400 models online for free for everyone to download.
So if you're interested in getting into the modeling aspect of this, it is really versatile. It's nice to have something that you can just throw together.
Yep.
Something small that you may need really quick.
There's a perfectly free program. It's called Blender. It's what I think most people use. It's a 3D modeling tool, and there's plenty of YouTube tutorials on how to use it. I just haven't dove into that aspect of modeling yet.
What was it like this one? How many hours was the Tiamat?
Oh, because she printed in, 11, because it tells two. It was 11 pieces, and it was probably about 26 to 28 hours. I don't remember for sure. Because I personally print all of these solid. You can print with what's called infill. So it would be like, it prints the outer shell, but then the inside, it just kind of prints a grid, so it doesn't use as much plastic, which is fine for a lot of simple models, but I print these solid just so they're a little more durable for moving around.
And you can pick your percentage of infill,
yes.
right?
In here, you'll see my Cura profile. It has all my settings for printing minis, and one of those will be set at 100%, which is the infill. But you can drop that all the way down to 0, and it will only print the outer shells and be completely hollow.
Oh, that seems like a bad day.
Yeah, but if you're just trying, like when I made the hallway tool,
right?
The first time I printed it with 0 infill because I just wanted it done really quick to see if it fit. And
Makes
then once I knew it was sized right, I was able to reprint it at a higher infill. But even that I think is on like 20 or 25. That one doesn't need to be solid because there's not a lot of thin breakable pieces.
I just had a mental image of something with 0 infill, like on the days that I've left all my stuff in my car at work.
Yes.
And all of my my area of effect templates got melted.
Yeah, because these are printed in PLA plastic, which you're in the summer and you leave them in your car, will get hot enough to warp or bend them. Because like I said, a hair dryer is enough to bend the plastic, so definitely in your car will.
Comical, not functional.
Yeah. I lost a different dice tower to the same thing.
Yep. Speaking of dice towers, this one, for whatever, it's super cool, but it keeps popping up in every timeline that I have online. So do you want to talk about printing this one a little bit? Were there some issues or anything that you had with that guy? This one,
it's really cool just because I also printed a D2 because I'm insane. But it's because you can watch the die go around in it. But what it is this outer part is actually a plastic water bottle.
Smart water?
I believe it was the 1.5 liter smart bottle.
Yeah.
And then you just printed the cap, the spiral stairs, and the base, and then glue it all together. I have had the glue pop apart a few times on me. What I really should do is they also make what they call 3D pens, and it's just basically a pen that squirts the plastic, and I need to go in there with that, and it'll probably hold a little better. I just haven't. So.
But this is really cool too, because before you glue it all together, you can actually set little scenes and stuff in the bottom.
Yes,
here,
there is an open area in the back. I didn't put anything in because I'm not that creative,
but you can.
But you can.
Next thing, do you want to talk about ways that you prep the miniatures for painting before I paint them?
Sure. What I do, and I picked this up from 3D printed tabletop. There it is, and it's once they're off of here, like this guy, I've pulled off the supports, but there's still some areas that are a little rough, and I'll go in with files and clean them up. But then I put a coat of a clear urethane, and it helps fill in the little layer lines. Because some of these guys, you can still see the layer lines before I knew about that, but that helps seal it. And then hit it with just a spray-on primer, and it's at that point ready to paint just like any other mini. And then I pass it on to you because I have no talent or patience for printing or painting.
We can cover some more painting videos. Maybe we'll do a painting 3D minis video one of these days.
Yeah.
Because honestly, it's not too bad. Most of this stuff is basic dry brushing and color blocking and that kind of thing. So maybe we'll do one like that one of these days.
Yeah.
You can print a mini and then I'll paint it. We can give it away.
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah. So if you guys have any miniatures that you want to see in that video, how about you drop them down in the description and we'll. Are there any tools that you can put out there for people that are wanting to get into 3D printing their own miniatures and set pieces?
The biggest thing I can say is going online and looking for help. There's great communities out there. I already mentioned 3D Printed Tabletop, his YouTube channel. He is very active in his comments. You can talk in there. He also has some great videos comparing different types of printers, both the FDM like I use and comparing those to resin printers. The other is the Printed Miniatures subreddit. It's an entire subreddit dedicated to this kind of thing, and a lot of the posts on there are pictures of ones that people have printed and painted, but pinned to the top is a guide to help you get started and help you refine your techniques. So there's a lot of resources online for it.
So they talk about a lot of the common issues like settings,
temperatures, how to prevent what's called stringing, because sometimes when it prints a section and goes to move to another, it'll leave this big long string that was like dripping out of your nozzle. And there's ways of preventing that when you start dialing in your settings. They have ways of testing your printer on there that will help you get rid of that because it makes cleanup a lot easier and nicer.
There's a lot of people that talk about, like, I know when you first started you had some issues with like print bed adhesion.
Yes,
that's a big one.
That is the issue with everyone when they first start printing, is getting the print to stick to the bed. Mm-hmm. And early on, I used every trick. I used blue tape, hairspray, glue, and it just took practice to be able to get it. Now I print it right on the build tack, which is just a sheet of kind of rough plastic that's hooked onto the build plate. But early on, like these guys were terrible. They peeled off a couple times, and the bottoms looked terrible compared to the one I just did today. And that was just, a lot of it was practice and getting your printer dialed in. Early on, you're going to have a lot of them fail. It won't stick, it'll just turn into spaghetti. It'll start going and something will break. But the nice thing is with these FDM printers, I mean, this guy probably cost me 20 cents in plastic. So the biggest issue is just the time that you lose on the printer.
And the initial startup.
And the initial startup cost of the printer itself.
Because your printer was what, $300 when we got it for you?
I think it goes for about $250 now. There's better ones out there. Like,
obviously,
I'd really like the Ender 3, but I already have a printer, so there's no reason of buying that one. Yeah, and you won't let me.
See previous statement.
Yeah.
About being broke all the time.
But once you have the printer, at least on the FDM, the plastic printers, it's not that big of a deal if it fails because it's not that much cost in it. The resin printers, which I haven't used yet, I want to pick one up eventually, but they're more expensive.
There's also the issue of venting.
Yeah,
fumes.
those you have to vent fumes, and the resin itself is more expensive. So a guy like this would probably be a few dollars instead of a few cents.
Now, what does a roll of plastic run typically?
Depends on what brand you buy, but anywhere from $15 to $25 for a kilo. And
the rolls are what, like about that big or so?
Yeah, they're actually pretty similar in size to that,
right.
and about that tall.
Okay, just give everybody an idea of how much plastic you get for that price.
And to give you an idea, even like this big guy, the Turosk, who is printed solid, and I think he was about 450 grams, so he was not quite half a roll. So you're looking at maybe $10 worth of plastic to print that guy.
And that miniature probably, if anyone made it, I think Bones might make Like Reaper Miniatures, I think might make a Churrasco Mini now.
I'm not sure. They made one in the past that was like $90.
Yeah, so the gist of this is, yes, a 3D printer is expensive. The plastic for startup is a little bit pricey, but for somebody like me who really likes to use miniatures, I collect my minis. I have a lot of miniatures, as you guys have seen in the past. This has more than paid for that $300 printer.
I love telling people I've been wanting a 3D printer for years, and finally she agreed on the sole account is if I make her minis, I can have a 3D printer, and it was like, all right, go to the internet right now and buy it.
You just gotta know how to sell it, man.
Yeah, it's a fun hobby. It's very definitely still a hobby. It's not something that is super user friendly. It's getting there, but it's still, you're gonna have a lot of failure. It's gonna be a little frustrating. I know I got frustrated a lot early on.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, this guy, I dropped on there, hit print, and forgot about him for about 4 hours, and then he was done.
I can remember you used to come home, you'd have 4-hour prints on the printer, and it would just be spaghetti monster nonsense, and you'd be so pissed.
Everyone makes spaghetti. Everyone will get the tumor on the bottom of their nozzle. It happens.
So don't get frustrated. Just go on to the 3D printed minis subreddit, and there will be somebody around that will probably
the printed minis subreddit. Also, then there's just the 3D printing subreddit, which is just for all 3D printing. They can also help, and they'll help you dial in your settings, and you can post. There's a bunch of calibration prints. There's little cubes. The 3D benchy that everyone uses, just a little mini boat, and you print those.
Somebody printed off a benchy and put it on our Christmas tree.
Well, yeah. You gotta have a benchy on the tree.
We need to make a little Santa to go inside the boat.
There you go. But you'll print these different calibration prints, take pictures of it, post it on there, and then you'll have 50 different people responding, oh, if you up this temperature, if you lower this setting, if you change this, it'll help you.
Is there anything else that you think would be helpful that we skipped over?
I think the biggest thing is it takes time, but it's well worth it because you get to add to your table and make it more fun when you murder your players.
Well, there was like that Goblin Village out of Tomb of Annihilation that I wanted to make, and I was like, can I get some huts?
Yeah, and I googled Polynesian hut on Thingiverse and found these and then sized them to the right size and printed a bunch of them. Mm-hmm. And you were able to basically build that entire Batiri village.
It was really cool. All right, so I think that's all we have for you guys this week. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and you found it helpful. If you have anything to add to the conversation, please drop that down below in the comments. And until next time, keep it rolling, adventurers.
All right.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah.